¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday Junior. Welcome. Heat, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. That's 34 months. I appreciate that. Thank you. Michael Hassler, welcome. Today's my husband's birthday. We're probably going to go get some grub later. Nice. Well, happy birthday to Mr. Heat. Thank you. I appreciate you showing support as well. Thank you. Thank you for the tier 1 sub, I should say. All right, folks, we got, oh boy, do we have a lot to go through. If you haven't done so already, thanks, no problem. If you haven't done so already, make sure you are liking the stream. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube. Make sure you're following. And if you want to support the channel, there are many different ways. Consider checking out the merch store by hitting !merch. Join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord. Do it. All right. Man, do we have a lot of stuff to go through. All right, let's get started, folks. Movie night. It is. 6 p.m. That's right.
Oh, Byron Donald.
Yes, Byron Donalds is on here with Anna Paulina Luna, Tick, and Fox's Maria Bartiromo. And there's so much, they're so upset that they can't make the argument that Joe Biden's really old anymore. I don't know if it's a function of like Donald Trump falling asleep in court or his Ozempic making him fart so much that people can't stand to be around him.
Or the fact that they have like a core constituency, particularly people watching Fox News, that might be offended if you call them a little bit old.
Right.
And I also think this might be an attempt to beat back the...
Yeah. You can't really use the whole old thing against Joe Biden or against Trump. They're both old as heck.
Extremely low expectations that Trump is providing for Biden ahead of a debate. Like Trump being like, he can't string 2 sentences together, he can barely move. And them trying to be like, well, what happens if he might be able to move and string 2 sentences together?
Yeah.
But here they are speculating. And the funny part is, like, I'm not even sure I accept their premise. But
exactly. Both are crypt keepers.
Here they are trying to, and I think this is a good point. It's like they're trying to sort
of. I love those the emote. Been watching MR clips a lot recently. I love them clowning on Seinfeld.
Play the expectations game for the debate. If he does well, it's because he's obviously been shot up with vitamin C or whatever it is, vitamin B. If he doesn't do well, then the doctor didn't come a calling. But here's Maria Bartiromo. I loved her qualifier at the end.
Okay, so what did you see when you were at the State of the Union? You heard what your colleague Greg Murphy said. He's the head of the Doctors Caucus. He says, quote, Joe Biden was jacked up. Now you've got President Trump saying he wants drug testing. Should there be drug testing before these debates?
Maria, I'll tell you, I absolutely agree with that. There should. You could tell that Joe Biden comes in, he's jacked up, and then as the hour goes by, he slowly winds down. So the American people need to understand if they're giving him some injection so that he can actually look like he's coherent and he's with us.
Man, I would almost be willing to bet money that probably is the same case for Trump. Okay. I don't know if Trump wants to go through with the idea of doing a drug test.
Because
yeah, that's right. They need to pump him full of They need to pump him full of all the good stuff to get Dark Brandon out.
The other parts of the time he's not. This is why we want to get the Hur tapes, because obviously during that session with Robert Hur, things did not go well. The American people need to understand what is the true mental capacity of Joe Biden.
Well, I just want to say, look, these are obviously very serious charges that he's jacked up. We don't know. We're not doctors. We have no idea. Now, the GOP Doctors Caucus chairman did say
Exactly. Drug test them both.
I have experienced this, and I know this for sure. But I mean, how are you going to know? So you're saying yes, we should have drug testing.
Maria, I think that we need to. I think that, we're talking about someone who has the ability to launch nukes. And frankly, Rep. Van Jew actually made a great point in that the reason why we're fighting so hard to hear these actual audio recordings of the president during his interview is because we need to ensure that this individual is essentially capable. We don't necessarily trust that he can do that right now.
Real quick before. Okay.
I mean, let's drug test both of them.
When they say jacked up, it reminds me of that old ESPN segment, right? Where they basically show these guys getting concussed and hit really hard, and they go, "You just got jacked up." That's just a bit of an aside, but
also, like, where do we line up for these shots?
I know. Well, JFK, just Google Dr. Feelgood and JFK. I mean, like, it's not.
You could also just Google Donald Trump's White House physician, who apparently was handing out drugs like it was candy.
Yeah, you can Google Trump pill mill.
Oh my
Which is how it was described.
Oh yeah, did you not know?
Yep. Biden is so jacked. Fox News probably. Well, I mean, Maria Bartiromo.
No, I know. What was the guy's name? He's now
Ronnie. Well, yeah.
Ronnie
Ronnie Jackson
Jackson
was the White House physician, and now he's obviously.
We covered his latest media appearance. If you recall, Sam, he was on Fox News, and even they looked alarmed at. Do you remember this? No.
He allegedly has, but many people in his office,
Allegedly.
I think when he was White House physician, have alleged that he himself had some substance abuse problems.
I really don't care for the most part.
He's the one they call Dr. Feelgood.
What the president uses to like unwind, or if Trump is taking a bunch of Adderall to enhance his performance, and if Biden is taking supplements. As we've said before, it's about the coalitions they're bringing into office, not really the figurehead. And I think they're having trouble making the case that like Trump is a less risky bet on the competence point, because even if people think Biden is old, they still don't go as far as to say he's kind of a maniac in the way Trump is. That's the general consensus.
You got to wonder why Biden, the Biden administration, their DEA, changed the schedule of marijuana.
True.
Yeah, I mean, just asking questions.
Yeah, Sam, just asking questions. It's great when you randomly sing.
We don't know what Biden's doing.
If Biden was like a stoner, that might. I might like him slightly more. I just don't think that's the case. They're both teetotalers, aren't they? Both of them?
Yeah, I'm not
Trump
sure.
and Biden.
But yeah, like this is like you said, like this is all second order. It was the same thing with Trump. Was is he too crazy to be president? Well, he's like too bad, and the output is so bad that we shouldn't want this guy president. But like as far as being not there, yeah, I don't think Biden's all there. I think he's noticeably slowed. I think Trump's not all there. Ronald Reagan had an interview with Leslie Stahl when he was president, where she's like, I looked in and there was like nothing behind his eyes, and he like famously like grabbed a Air Force One model out of a fish bowl, and his wife asked him, "What's that?" And he said, "I don't know, something to do with me." So like this happens.
Oh yeah. No, he had full on, I think, dementia by the time he left. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show.
What can you expect from men underage? They should be in retirement homes. Exactly. And yet here we are, faced with the decision of whether we have this one guy. Sam and his jump scares, I swear. We have this one guy who's having like obvious, who's showing signs of cognitive decline, and you have the other guy who's showing signs of cognitive decline. Yeah. Hello. I love these sound effects. Right, but one of these one of these geriatric candidates with cognitive decline has a dictator tendency, a dictator agenda, and is constantly oopsieing Nazi shit. So yeah, cool. Very nice stuff. A very fine and normal election we're having, huh? I was gonna say geriatrics too.
This week, Donald Trump claimed that President Biden tried to have him assassinated due to the fact that the FBI was...
Yeah, and you had people, by the way, like freaking Tim Pool try to make this assertion. And it's just like it's just so absurd. Like taking one single little clip that they found on documents that they probably don't understand. It's just so absurd.
was allowed to use lethal force if necessary when they executed the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Now, before I go any further, let me make this crystal clear to anyone watching this. The FBI
has every ability to use guns. Yeah, we know.
Come out in a statement, and they said, this is actually in every search warrant that we execute. If we're going to go into an area to do a search, our agents, per the warrants, are always authorized to do this. We didn't change the language because it was Donald Trump. We didn't add it or remove it because if a situation arose where our agents were under attack, we have to make sure they are protected.
Right, yeah. So it turns out like federal agents have authorization to use guns. Yeah, I know. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And somehow that turned into, this is an assassination plot. This is an assassination plot against Trump. Right, but how can he be the victim if that's the case? Yeah, it's always that. It always comes back to that, right? It always circles back to that, huh?
So, just to get it out.
How can I make this situation about me being the victim?
Out in the open, the FBI did not intentionally go in there with the intent to harm anyone. They didn't do it especially for Trump. It's literally what they do in the execution of any search warrant. Now, having said that, as we all know, Donald Trump then got on social media and said, they tried to assassinate me. He said, the Department of Justice authorized the FBI to use deadly, lethal force. So Trump's overreaction and, of course, his lies about what really was in there, that's one thing. But what's even more disgusting is Marjorie Taylor Greene's response to it. Because after Donald Trump put his post out there to the world, Marjorie Taylor Greene got on social media and said this: I made sure that he knew. So she's acting like, I knew it, I told you, I said they were going to do it, buddy, I just didn't believe me. The Biden DOJ and FBI were planning to assassinate President Trump and gave the green light. Does everyone get it yet? What are Republicans going to do about it?
Yeah, that's where we begin to have problems, right? That's where we begin to have problems because now this is essentially this is essentially a call to action, right? This is a call to action on the basis of a complete lie, okay? There was never an assassination attempt on former President Trump. That just didn't happen, okay? Anyone with some kind of common sense and just rationale would know, because I didn't even watch this video, or I didn't even watch or read the FBI's response, but it seems to me that it's pretty obvious or pretty standard that a law enforcement agency would be carrying guns at the time of an execution of search warrants. We see that all the time. But the point is, where I'm going with this tangent, is that she's riling up people, and this is a clear attempt to call for action. 3 question marks. She tends to outshine others in disgustingness. True. 3 question marks. 4 exclamation points. She's a middle schooler. Yeah.
I tried to oust our speaker who funded Biden's DOJ and FBI, but Democrats stopped it. Now there's one line in
and Republicans too, by the way. But okay.
her post that I'm going to reread, because this is the call to action. What are Republicans going to do about it? She didn't say my colleagues in the House. She didn't say Republicans in the Senate. She didn't refer to any elected officials. She just said Republicans, which means any Republican in this country.
Right. And like the whole like, it's purposely just vague enough. At any point, if she's ever pressed on it, she could, weasel her way and say like, well, no, I meant Republican Party members in the House. Like, it's just vague enough. We call that stochastic terrorism.
If you're registered Republican, she is asking you, what are you going to do about it? About her lie that President Biden attempted to assassinate President Trump.
And what's scary about this is that, like, people will genuinely believe this. I mean, people showed up to the whole, like, January 6th thing over a call to action on the basis of a lie. These cult members believe it. Like, if these type of, the leadership, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump, start saying things like, yeah, they tried to assassinate me or something like that, they'll believe it. The cult members will believe it. Mousander, welcome. Probably learned from her predecessor, Palin.
Like, that didn't happen. She literally says they were planning to assassinate him. That is not true.
Yeah,
that is
never
a
happened.
bald-faced lie. But then she asks, what are you going to do about it? That, in my interpretation, is a call to action, not for Congress, not for any elected official. That, I believe.
Yeah, it's 100% a call to action. That's what I said. I didn't even watch this video. Oh, I agree, Mousander. But, here we are.
Is a call to action to the crazy MAGA fanatics in this country. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows exactly what she is doing by putting that out there, because, again, she could have specified when she said Republicans, what are you going to do about it? She could have said Republican officials, what are you going to do about it? She just said Republicans.
Yeah, or like call for like the removal of the Department of I don't whatever, like literally anything. Anything else, but like she purposely like left it just vague enough to leave herself an out, I imagine.
That is the megaphone, right? That is the call to action. Go do something about this.
I can't tell you what I want you to do about it, but go do something about it. For legal purposes, I can't tell you exactly what you should do, and I can't exactly be specific as to who I'm talking to. But it's like the equivalent of saying like someone somewhere should do something. So when do we get to treat stuff like this like terrorism? I wonder. Yeah, straight up, Margarine Gangrene should be in jail.
These lies that President Biden was somehow going to have Donald Trump assassinated
is absurd.
Are going to get somebody killed. And Republicans know it, and that's why they're pushing it. But it's also worth pointing out, I mean, if we're talking about one presidential candidate, assassinating another, remind me again whose lawyers went in front of the U.S. Supreme Court and said it's okay for a sitting president to order the murder of his political rival? Because I'm pretty sure those weren't Biden's lawyers that argued that. No, Donald Trump's lawyers literally said that. So, make of that what you will, because that actually happened. Biden authorizing deadly force against Donald Trump, however, did not. Hey, everybody. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, and like people are acting like as if Biden's like directing this whole thing. This is absurd. This is so absurd. Yeah, rules for thee. Yeah, here, this Tim Pool literally was trying to say like, unmarked FBI armed and ready to use lethal force at Mar-a-Lago against Trump and his security. This was either an attempt to kill Trump or incite civil war, or maybe both. Bro, shut up. What did you see, Chilaquiles? Was that an ad? You're going to be a monarchy soon. No. Oh, the Google home screen. Oh. Oh, huh. It's celebrating the dish, but I've never had it before. Me neither. Me neither. Before we get on to the next video, here is Senator Graham. Projection is not a type of visual media display, it's a lifestyle. For these people, oh, definitely. Welcome.
So we, hopefully, together will find a way to register our displeasure with the ICC. Because if they'll do this to Israel, we're next. This group tried to come after our soldiers.
Let me stop you right there. As the meme implies, your terms are acceptable. Yeah. Yeah. If you commit war crimes, then you should be held to account. Yes, that's exactly how it works. It doesn't matter if you are a U.S. senator or the prime minister of Israel. It does not matter. Is this mixed nuts night? We got one more. It's really thundering outside. Let me rewind that for a second.
If they'll do this to Israel, we're next.
Yeah, and if you didn't commit war crimes, then you're good. But if you did commit war crimes, then you should be held to account. It's that simple.
This group tried to come after our soldiers. Yeah, you can clap all you want to. They tried to come after our soldiers in Afghanistan.
Why is that? If they're committing war crimes, then yeah, that's kind of how this works.
But reason prevailed. So at the end of the day here, what I hope to happen is that we level sanctions against the ICC for this outrage to not only help our friends in Israel, but protect ourselves over time. Mr. Secretary,
yeah, and like it's kind of like it's so brazen, like what the angle is here. It's essentially like making the argument that if politicians in Israel are going to be held to account, then we might be held to that standard, and we're actually above that. We're actually above that. We're above the law. We're above the ICC, and there should be no consequences to the actions that we take. That's the argument. That's the subtext here. I have no fear of the Hague. All my war crimes happen where they're supposed to happen in video games.
Statement yesterday was excellent. The president's statement was excellent. Senator Schumer's statement on the floor was excellent about the outrage here. They have destroyed the notion of complementarity. They have misled people in the United States Senate about their intention, and they shall and will pay a price. Mr. Secretary, I appreciate what you've said. It is now time for us to act. Thank you.
Shut up. So, yeah, you know, as Lance from the Surfs posted this meme, if they arrest Israeli war criminals, they can come after Americans. Your terms are acceptable. I don't think smashing Koopas is a war crime. The smashing, instead of the smashing pumpkins, we'll have the smashing Koopas. It should be like a parody, like Max Sabbath. Yeah, it should be a parody like this, Max Sabbath. How do you like that Joe Biden is using executive privilege against MAGA Congress? I don't know how he's deployed that. Generals wait, hold on. Hello. 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 Liberals gathered in their masses. Oh no, that's too much of an echo. Too much of an echo. Liberals gathered in their masses. No. Yeah, it's too echoey. He just does it straight voice. To stop Congress from getting the audio tapes of his interview with her. Oh, that's literally like on the low tier. That's literally on the low tier of priorities. Okay? Like trying to shield himself from criticism of like obvious like, signs of or potential evidence of like cognitive decline when we can kind of like that's a really irrelevant argument because like both candidates are showing obvious signs of like if they actually obtained the whatchamacallit, the audio tapes of this interview and it showed that like Joe Biden is expressing cognitive decline, like would anybody really be surprised? I don't know. Like even if they did obtain access to that, like it's not an argument anymore. It's not something that's it's not a good argument. He's using Trump's tricks against them. Yeah, I don't know. That's literally on the lowest of tiers of things that I care about. Just like witches at black masses. I always thought the left should use all the tools at their feet to govern, and I never agreed with they go low, we go high. Yeah, I agree. I agree if the tools are available, they should use use them absolutely. But Dems aren't really known for that. Sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander, or the Supreme Court. They go, now we get high. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Welcome, Bipedal Meatbag. So here we have Matt Walsh, being an absolute freak. So they are responding to a picture of the loss of indigenous land from, the inception of the country all the way up until 1930. And like a normal and hinged person, he decides to respond with the civilizing of the continental U.S. So yeah, imagine equating genocide, the genocide of the indigenous people here as quote civilizing the area. I feel like there's a word for freaks like him. Yeah. I feel like there's a word for that. He is a dick. And somehow, this dude is, and somehow this dude's allowed a huge platform on the Daily Wire. Just casually equating genocide with the civilizing of a people or civilizing of an area. I think it's just that stupid post. Like not even like saying like, oh, the civilizing of people. He doesn't even take that into account. He's just saying like that the area was civilized. The continental U.S. was civilized, was sanitized, and of course that came at the small cost of genociding of people. No, he's saying that the area is now civilized. He's saying he's saying the continental U.S. is civilized because we did a genocide. Did you see that Blue Sky does DMing now? There goes the neighborhood. Really? Cool. Now it is really just basically like Twitter. I just wish it was bigger. I just wish how's it going, Joey John? I just wish it was bigger. Yeah, everyone join Blue Sky so I can start posting there. I always mean to, and then like I just never do. North America was civilized until it was colonized. That's right. Uh-oh. What doesn't make any sense? Is there something difficult? Understanding the concept of genocide is bad and how disgusting it is to make that comment? Because like there's nothing difficult or there's nothing that is illogical about what I literally just said. The natives didn't even live there first? Of course they did. And also, here's a question. What does that even matter to the argument? What does that even matter to the argument? Yeah, and so did Europeans. Like, I don't understand. What is the argument here? Because what I'm criticizing is that basically Matt Walsh is saying that the reason why the continent was civilized, as the post clearly says, it's a map of the displacement of the indigenous people here. And he's like, no, this is just the civilizing of the continental U.S. And what he means by that is the genocide. Yeah, go fuck yourself. That's literally has nothing to do with the point I was making. I didn't talk about anything regarding like tribe politics, them being at war with each other or not at the time has nothing to do with my point. Yeah, they just love to defend their precious baby Walsh. Right. Man. Yeah. Hey, there's a question like why do Mexican people speak Spanish? What happened there? What exactly happened there? Because that's a good point. Exactly, a good point. What exactly happened there? That's interesting. Although Matt Walsh would say that that's just the civilizing of South or of Central and South America. Well, no, Mexico is technically part of North America, isn't it? He would say that was also because he was just talking about the continental U.S. But he would say he would say that that's just a part of civilizing of the North American continent. That's what Matt Walsh's response would be. Disgusting. What a disgusting human being. I'm ready for some precious baby David though. Listen, after the freaking like fiasco with Matt Walsh trying to sell those like creepy plush dolls, yeah. Let's just not.
Well, the reality is, I think both candidates are trash. So but I am going to vote in November, and I'm going to vote my best interest, and I'm going to vote who I think can preserve democracy.
Radio host and celebrity Charlemagne the God was on The View, where there was a bit of a debate over the idea of endorsing Joe Biden or not endorsing Joe Biden. So Charlemagne, as you see, is not endorsing anybody for president, but he is still making it very clear who he is not supporting. And I think this gets into a greater discussion around what is the most effective way to use your speech as somebody with a platform when it comes to influencing your viewers or listeners to vote a certain way. I don't even think this is the way Charlemagne is thinking about it, but I'm going to get into more on that after the first clip.
Now, you have a massive platform reaching millions of listeners, and you and I have talked about this before. You endorsed Joe Biden back in 2020. But this time around, you say you're not going to endorse anybody. Charlemagne, now is not the time, in my opinion, to sit this one out.
Yeah. I didn't say that. I never said I was sitting it out.
What you gonna do?
I'm definitely voting in November, but what I like to focus on is issues, not individuals. Like, when
but why not endorse?
Huh?
Why not endorse Biden?
Because if I'm sitting here telling my listeners...
Why aren't you doing the thing, man?
That you have somebody out there who is a threat to democracy. You have somebody out there who said they want to suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. You saw this person try to lead an attempted coup of this country, and I'm telling people that this guy is a threat to democracy. Have you ever read Project 25? There's only 2 candidates out there. So if I'm saying that about this individual, the choice is clear.
Yeah,
right?
All right, I got a couple of clips here, and it's very clear, it's obvious that Charlemagne is claiming that Trump is a bigger threat and that he is going to vote for Joe Biden, but he is unwilling to say that publicly. Now, some people may view this as him playing games or him maybe trying not to offend a certain audience. And there may be a part of that in his thinking here, but I really think this is just about he really doesn't like Joe Biden. So why is he going to give his endorsement when he doesn't like Joe Biden? Just like, I do feel it's and look, we'll get to the persuasion.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like Joe Biden is not entitled by default to anybody's endorsement. He would presumably have to earn that endorsement, because when you endorse somebody, especially as a celebrity, you're basically putting your brand and saying, yeah, I'm okay with this.
persuasive aspect of this and how effective this line of thinking is for an audience compared to just outright endorsing Biden. I'll get to that after the next couple
Jen on the side
clips. But you can't expect anybody, in whether they're random people in your family or people in power that have platforms, to just, I don't know, endorse people or vouch for people that they don't particularly like. That doesn't mean, especially when it applies to an election, that doesn't mean that they prefer the other person, or it doesn't even mean they're sitting out, but it just means, why would they lend their voice to something and undermine their own credibility when they don't like that person? This gets to the next clip.
The reality is, I think both candidates are trash. So but I am going to vote in November, and I'm going to vote my best interest, and I'm going to vote who I think, can preserve democracy. So if I think both candidates are trash, and I don't feel like, endorsing one, would you rather me endorse an individual or endorse the fact that, hey, we need to go out here and protect democracy?
Whether it is by accident or on purpose, Charlemagne here is hitting on what I think is the most effective way of communicating politics and elections. And that is simply being honest about all of it.
Let me tell you who I'm not independent of. I'm not independent of you, and I don't want to be.
Stop it.
He thinks both candidates are trash. Now, even though he thinks that, it is very clear that he is leaning in one direction over the other, but he is still being honest about, hey, these are terrible options here. Now, in a society where, let's say, only 5% of the population is independent, this message wouldn't be as effective. But in a society where the clear plurality of voters at 43% right now are independent, this is a very effective way of communicating politics. Because even though it's clear that he is likely going to vote for Joe Biden in November, even though that's clear here, him coming out to, let's say, endorse Biden, that immediately puts him into a box for a large swath of voters that, at that point, a lot of these independents are simply going to stop listening to what he has to say, because they've already put him into a category, and they figure whatever he says is going to simply be in the interests of that category.
Correct.
And not be in the interests of how most people are feeling. But as long as he remains independent in the way he's delivering this message, then he has the most effective ability, or
uncommitted, if you will. It is refreshing.
It is the most effective way to reach this audience here. Coming out, and I feel like this should be obvious. If you come out, if someone comes out and says, hey, I'm voting for Trump, I'm not going to listen to that person on anything. Why would I want to listen to a Trump supporter?
There's common misconception that independents are in between Republicans and Dems when they're just as partisan as registered Dems and Republicans. Big complicated politics is going on. Welcome, Zio Duke. Yeah, I guess you could think about it like, I'm assuming a portion of these independents are conservative. They're just not registered Republican. And I think that, especially today, I think especially today, the simulacra is more, it is more apparent.
But if there is a conservative, to be honest, I don't think there's many of these people, but if there is a conservative who is not clear in his support of Donald Trump and is willing to criticize Donald Trump on the obvious horrible things he has done, then I am more likely to listen to what that conservative has to say, even if I disagree with them on where they fall on certain issues. I am more likely to at least hear them out. But once you slot yourself into a category, it is just, your message becomes ineffective. And this, I'm noticing this not just, when it comes to, let's say, The View. It sounds like a lot of them are going to vote for Joe Biden. But this becomes an issue when it comes to, YouTube shows that have made it very clear that they are unwilling to criticize the Democratic Party. And they think they are doing the best they can. The best thing they're doing is, being full-throated endorsement of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, and unwilling to criticize his positions, unwilling to criticize him cozying up to a genocidal Israeli government. They think they're doing a great thing. They think they are helping to preserve democracy by being unwilling to criticize Joe Biden, when in reality, the only audience they are speaking to are other people who are already going to vote for Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. People are getting more and more turned off to parties. I agree.
Biden. So, who are you convincing? Why do you bother having a platform? And
preaching to the choir, essentially.
Whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's television, why bother having a platform if you're not going to utilize that platform in an effective way to enact some kind of change, to change minds? My videos are yes, they're for me in the sense that I'm giving my opinion. I'm honest with where I stand on issues. But I also, when it comes to selecting certain stories and what I want to cover, I consciously decide to cover certain things because I want people's minds to change on certain issues. I want to be, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm not doing this to hear my own voice, even though I have to hear it a lot. That isn't why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I enjoy educating people.
You sure about that, David? You sure?
Perspective. I enjoy adding context to conversation so that people are better informed when it comes to certain issues and hopefully changing minds in the process. If I am just sitting here speaking to the same goddamn people that already agree with me all the time, then what is the point? So what Charlemagne is doing here, I think, is, again, I'm not sure if it's on purpose or by accident. I really just think this is who he is. He's not really considering the larger picture, or maybe he is. He's a smart guy, so I'm sure he understands the impact as well. But this is, what he's doing here, I think, is the most effective way of persuading voters. And I just want to show this as well. This is why Democrats can't simply rely on the Democratic base. Because if you're just relying on a base.
Yeah, if you're just relying on the base, that's American Socialist Party mainstream any day now. Yeah, tomorrow. Are you saying that if you change the tune, the choir won't go home and ignore the vote? I have no idea what that means. If you're preaching to the choir, all the is it euphemism? Analogy? The saying, okay, for lack of a better word, the saying preaching to the choir just means that you are just talking to people that already agree with you. That's it. That's all that means.
Republicans are going to win every time. You have to speak to people that don't normally vote. You have to speak to independents. This is why when turnout is high, Democrats win. Because when turnout is high, that tends to mean a lot of voters, like young people, come out to vote.
I'll start the timer, but I don't think there are 23 months in 21, 24. You can if you believe, Zeoduke, okay? You can if you believe. In the year 21, 24, there will be 23 months, okay?
And young people generally lean more towards
idiom. There you go. That's it. That's the word. Idiom. It's an idiom. Gotcha.
Democratic vote when they do vote, but they're not going to vote if you continue doing things like continue to support a genocidal Israeli government. So if you're not speaking to their issues, they're not going to come out to vote. Which also goes to why you can't, looking at this through the lens of, if your chosen party doesn't win, then it's the voters' fault, is ridiculous. when all of the power.
Right, like that's such an absurd concept to begin with. English major, thank goodness, okay? Because that's super handy, okay? Because like my whole job here is to speak, okay? So there's going to be times where that comes in clutch. But I remembered it from Archer. Yeah, like this whole concept of blaming the voters when your candidate loses is absurd. Okay? Like it's just so absurd. Why would you blame the voters for your failed campaign? This makes no sense.
Is with those at the top that have the ability to both change things and also change their message, focus on certain issues that maybe they're not focusing on, that voters that are independents would care about if you focused on them. One more clip here.
I don't know if it's because he's old or people are mad. I don't know why Democrats are mad at him, but I know I'm better off with him than I am with the other one.
Right.
You don't know why people are mad? You don't understand why people are angry at Biden? Whew. Yikes. Because, excuse me, because the voters are used to being treated like ish. Yep.
Right, that's what I know. So, and we say it because we always have to remind people of what we went through in order to do this, in order to have this right to vote. And so if you say you're going to vote, then I'm not going to ask any more questions.
Not only am I saying I'm going to vote, I'm telling you who the threat to democracy is.
Well, we do.
Yeah, and like these people don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't get it. Like it should make you more angry at Biden, knowing that Trump is a legitimate and credible threat to democracy, and this is how he's choosing to frickin' run things in terms of the campaign strategy, right? Like if you, knowing that Trump is such a threat to democracy, knowing that Trump is undoubtedly a fascist, it should make you more angry that Biden is still on this BS. Hey Bond, how's it going? You got to be blind not to know or care enough to find out why. Right, or maybe be so incredibly wealthy that you don't need to care about anything else around the world. Nothing affects you, essentially. It makes sense when the ignorant lead the apathetic.
We do this every day. We know who the threat to democracy is.
Right. So why aren't, if that's true, which I agree, by the way, I'm not disputing the fact that like Trump isn't a threat. Of course he's a threat to democracy. We'll get to we'll get to that in a second. Or wait, maybe no, I don't have that. In any case, Trump is a clear threat to democracy. Trump does not care about democratic institutions. He doesn't care for it. And knowing that, it should make you more angry that this is that Biden is choosing to do this this nonsense.
His name is Donald Trump. If you if you want me to spell that one out, come on.
In case it wasn't already clear where Charlemagne stands, there may be people out there that are, let's say, Democratic voters that maybe are feeling a bit apathetic. And hearing Whoopi Goldberg or whoever, come out and discuss the importance of voting, it's possible that gets some numbers out to vote. But I think when you want to reach a lot of people and do it in a way that is just honest with yourself, honest with what is going on, honest with the candidates, the parties, the policy of it all. The best way to do that is just be honest. Honest with what is happening, honest with who these people are, honest with your own perspective. Because even when you're honest with the facts, with the politics, that doesn't mean the person watching you is going to agree with where your conclusion lands. But at least people will understand where you're coming from. And I think Charlemagne is a lot better at communicating that than a lot of people with similar platforms.
Yep. This is how David always has been. I think that's why it's resonating with him. Yeah, I agree. I've watched David Dole since back when he had like just like a table and a Blue Yeti microphone and just some Apple headphones, essentially. It seems like Charlemagne is just settling for Biden. Yeah, I mean, like he makes the implication that like, oh, I'm going to vote, but I'm just not going to endorse anybody. I can't endorse anybody because I don't actually like any of these candidates. Yeah, I've watched David Dole for a while now. I think it's been years. So now that we have that set up, I think that's a perfect setup for this article. Biden campaign quietly meets with Haley supporters after Trump endorsement. Man, my hat's off to you, Michael Hassler. That's literally the plan here. That's literally the plan here, and yeah, that's a losing strategy. As a voter, it sucks to choose between Biden and Trump, to be honest. Yep. Fortunately, unfortunately, or fortunately, I live in a very red state. So I guess it doesn't really matter, huh? George Bush is younger than both Trump and Biden. Jeez. What are they going to tempt them over with? I don't know. I don't know. I don't see this happening. There's no significant. First of all, two things. How big is Nikki Haley's support? Like, genuinely, how much of support does Nikki Haley actually have? And then the follow-up question to that is, how much of that support is actually going to vote for Biden? Statistically, we can round that. We can round that to. We can round that to a statistic error, rounding error. Like 20% of Trump, sadly, around 1%. Yeah, a rounding error is effectively the answer to that question. Yeah. A group of Nikki Haley supporters from Vermont to Arizona met with President Biden's campaign on Wednesday night, almost immediately after she announced her plan to vote for Trump. The Daily Beast has learned in the previous unreported meeting, the Biden campaign representative listened to concerns of top Haley supporters from various states as part of Biden World's ongoing outreach to win over Haley voters. Oh, man. I'm curious to see how many votes RFK will get. I don't know. I can't imagine that much. Culver's is good. Cookies and beer. Yeah. There you go. Does Culver's have beer? No, right? Culver's doesn't have beer. The fact that they sent someone last night to speak to a small group, I think that's a good signal that they're aware there are huge numbers of Haley voters out there. No. No. No, there isn't. Said Robert Schwartz, founder of Haley Voters for Biden. Listen, all two of you, okay? All two of you that will actually genuinely switch from being a Haley supporter to actually being a Biden voter in November. All two of you, okay? Told the Daily Beast, Schwartz said the meeting was highly encouraging, and likened it to others listening session to the Biden campaign he has done with pro-Palestinian uncommitted votes. The Biden campaign did not immediately return a request for comment on the meeting. If you Kanye, it would be nice if West had a chance. If you go to the right branch though and say the code word, they'll put a pouch at the bottom of your order. I was trying to think of something witty, but it didn't come to me, Zio Duke. It didn't come to me. Ever since the GOP primary wrapped up, Biden team has identified Haley voters as a key persuasion target with a unique set of key issues. Jesus Christ. This triangulation strategy is not, no, this is not, this is 2016 all over again. This is 2016 all over again. The uncommitted vote has a handful of delegates now at the convention. Yes. As a key persuasion target with a unique set of key issues, particularly around Trump's attack on democracy and general notion of restoring decency to the office. The Biden campaign has continued trying to refine their definition of a persuadable Haley voter over the past few months, focusing on paid media, Haley's margins in key battleground precincts from the primary, and simply listening to their concerns. Notably, Haley made sure to point out in her remarks about planning to vote for Trump that she still wanted to see his campaign work to court her supporters, something that the Trump campaign has largely ignored since the end of the primary. Haley called Biden's term in office catastrophic, but Schwartz said he's still optimistic that Haley voters will ultimately shuffle over into the Biden column. That's not happening. Quote, she has a very wide coalition of voters. Yeah, I suppose like two people. Maybe those two people share a broad, ideology, including some from the center, left, and center, and conservatives. Well, actually, you know, I may be wrong. There may be three Haley. There may be three Haley supporters. Okay, in the entirety of the United States, there might actually be three. Does anybody actually believe this? Okay, does anybody actually believe this? Because I'm sorry. I have incredible difficulty believing that Nikki Haley has a, quote, wide coalition of voters, including some from the center left, center, and conservatives. Anyways, and I think among strong conservatives, there's a lot of disagreements about Biden's policy. Schwartz said, while I respectfully disagree with her decision to support Trump, I would also respectively disagree with her characterization of Biden being catastrophic. The continued outreach is the most encouraging sign for Schwartz, who called the impromptu meeting a big deal. That's an important development. The Biden campaign isn't only investing in digital ads and traditional media to reach out to Haley voters, But now we've been asking them to actually come and talk to them, just like they've been talking to uncommitted voters, and listen to what Haley voters are asking for and what their policy priorities are. Their policy priorities are conservative policies, right? That they're Republicans who are ultimately just going to end up voting for Trump. This makes absolutely no sense. The policy priorities are conservative, okay? A Zoom meeting may not be the most earth-shattering development in the campaign so far, but Schwartz says it's a crucial step for the Biden campaign to gain an edge with this key voting bloc. Key voting bloc. Yeah. Man, this is going to be disastrous. Buckle up, folks. Okay? Quote, it is critical that they make a serious and genuine effort to listen to them. No, not really. I mean, I guess it's critical if you're trying to deploy a losing strategy. I suppose it would make sense from that perspective. If you're talking about like this being critical for a losing strategy, then yes, I suppose so. I'm getting a callus from wearing the seatbelt. Yeesh. Ouch. No, the hypothetical strap. Here, let's actually listen to or watch and listen to this exchange between this anchor and Cancun Ted.
Menopause.
Still looks like an overgrown Christmas elf. Looks like Crystal Ball's sister. It really does look like her. Saw it last night. It was painful. Yeah.
Regardless of who wins. Will you accept the results regardless of who wins?
Look, if the Democrats...
Stop. This is very simple. Will you accept the result? There's nothing to add to that other than like, yeah, I'm going to accept the results, or no, I'm not going to accept the results. That's it.
Democrats win, I will accept the result, but I'm not going to ignore fraud regardless of what happens.
Nobody's. This is a Mott and Bailey. No one's saying you should ignore fraud. No one is saying you should ignore voter fraud. In fact, we've covered voter fraud when conservatives have gotten in trouble for doing so. No one is saying to ignore voter fraud, dude.
2020?
Of course there was fraud in 2020.
No, there wasn't, and you still objected.
You know for a fact there was zero voter fraud, really.
Yeah, and here he tries to pull like some really pedantic stuff like, oh, you mean there was no fraud, like zero fraud? Well, here's this one example of a guy that tried to vote for his dead mother who was a Republican. Oh, wait, no, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that guy, right? No? No, she doesn't mean literally there's no voter fraud. Everybody who is acting in good faith understands that. We know that in every single election there is going to be voter fraud. We know that, right? it's always an average of like 0.0000 something so like absurdly low that you could probably like you could probably like have a short list of the cases that happened. If Republicans win, he will look into fraud. Then nah.
What's your basis for that? Show me your evidence.
We've spoken with Governor Kemp. They did 3 hand recounts in the state.
Right. So just to be clear, she's just talking about like, was there widespread fraud that would affect the outcome of the election? Like Ted Cruz is just being freaking bad faith here. Anybody who's been watching knows what somebody means when they're saying there was no evidence of fraud. What they mean is that there was no evidence of voter fraud sufficiently enough to actually be like, hey, I think the results of the election are questionable. We need to look more into it. Ted Cruz knows this, by the way.
State of Georgia, the director of CISA said that it was the safest, most legitimate election.
But you're saying zero voter fraud occurred. That's what you just said.
Nothing that would have changed the outcome of that
Okay, but that's a different statement.
But no, it's not, because
Okay, that's just pedantic. She should have just shrugged that off. Should have just been like, "Come on, bro, like, stop it."
You said there was no voter fraud.
There was no voter fraud that would have changed the outcome of the election, and you know that, Senator.
Right. There we go. Yeah. You know, he knows that.
What I know is that what I stood on the Senate floor and objected, what I called for, I'll tell you, I wrestled with what to do in that circumstance. And the reason I wrestled with it.
Shut up. The reason he wrestled with it is he was trying to go like this and see where the political winds were blowing and the consequences of going against Daddy Trump. That's what he was doing.
Is because I think there was significant voter fraud.
He's been practicing his Foghorn Leghorn impression, it seems.
In 2020.
There wasn't. That's just outright false. That's just outright false. There is no evidence of any significant, like even that word significant. No, that's just outright false. That is a lie. There's no evidence of significant voter fraud in the 2020 election. There's no evidence of sufficient enough fraud that would even remotely be capable of even throwing the election in any way, shape, or form. Again, like what we're talking about is like literally like 0.00000. Like it's so absurd. It was absurd. It was comically low. The amount of actual like prosecuted and found cases of individual voter fraud. Okay, as far as what he may be talking about, election fraud. No, there was no. Besides the aftermath. Besides the aftermath of the election, where the Republicans tried to shoehorn fake electors. So besides that, like there was no concerted effort by the Democratic Party to change the results of the election. That didn't happen. Election fraud on the part of the Democratic Party just did not happen. That's not a thing that happened at all. Was there a voter fraud? Like 12 cases. What was the margin of the win? Like, yeah, maybe millions. I think you're talking about 18 million. Hey, Globus the Elder, welcome.
And
you wanted the 10-day commission, I know, but was there voter fraud that would have changed the outcome of the election? But do you know why I
wanted a 10-day commission? Because I tried to look. I'm a Supreme Court litigator. I argue cases in front of the Supreme Court.
I know.
I tried to look through history and precedent, and the best precedent I could find was the election of 1876. 1876 was between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel Tilden. And what happened there were serious allegations of voter fraud, and Congress didn't throw its hands up and say, you know what? CNN demanded that I accept the results no matter what. So
That's a completely bad faith interpretation. Again, we're working off a false premise. We're already starting off a completely artificial base. It didn't happen. There was no evidence of any widespread fraud. It just didn't happen. Yeah, they've had so much time by now to show something. Anything, literally anything. Why is Ted Cruz? How is Ted Cruz? Cancun, true. Exactly. They had so much time to show literally anything. And you can't just say like, oh, we need to stop the election process because there are allegations. That's nothing to me. Show me evidence that this is actually happening so that we can actually look at something. We need something on hand to work from to be able to say like, oh, hey, hold on. Well, we have evidence. Excuse me. We have evidence that something's going on here. And sure, you know, we would presumably investigate that. But no, this is completely based on nothing. It's fabricated. If the system is so corrupt, why did it let him win in 2016?
Ignore the fraud.
That's right.
I gotta go. But hold on. What did Congress do in 18? What did Congress do in 1876?
How did the president
That
handle it?
literally doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care what the Congress did and back. I don't give it. I don't care. I don't care. Where is the evidence that there's actually widespread voter fraud? This is year what? Year 4, and you still cannot produce an example, evidence of widespread fraud, as he said. Yeah, gotta go to Cancun probably. A widespread voter fraud to then be like, hey, you know what? We gotta we gotta investigate this. That never happened. It's been 4 years. Okay, it's been 4 years. Either put up or shut up. If you don't have evidence, then just shut up. Shut up, please. Jesus Christ.
What did Congress do in 1876?
Senator, I have to know, you can't
I'm
answer
asking
yes
a
or no
question.
to this question.
I'm asking
It doesn't
a question. What
matter.
did Congress do in
I don't care.
You can't answer yes or no to this question. And Republicans...
Can you answer my question? Why are you refusing to answer my question?
I'm conducting the interview with all due respect, Senator.
Oof. Oof. Oh, man. Nice. You love to see it, folks. You love to see it. Effing debate, bro. Yeah, not even a good one either, right? Like, man, not even a good debate, bro. Just obnoxious.
But
And let me ask you, it's Republicans have twisted themselves in knots. It's just a yes or no question.
I'm not twisting myself. I'm answering your question. You just don't like my answer.
And what's your answer? Is it yes or is it no?
So in 1876, what?
Oi. Yes or no? Do you believe that the 2020 election was legitimate? Yes or no? Do you believe that there was widespread fraud? Yes or no? And if you do, then where's your evidence? It's not that. It's not. Welcome, Wolf Glenn. The evidence of voting fraud is simple. Biden got more votes. Yep, fraud is the only possible answer. True.
Congress did is it appointed an election commission. It consisted of 15 people.
Don't
5
care.
House members.
Don't care.
5 senators,
Don't
5
care.
Supreme Court justices.
Don't care.
The election commission was charged with studying the evidence and making a determination of what voter fraud occurred, and
don't care.
That determined the winner. And what I called for in 2020 was to do the same thing, appoint an election commission, and
After it
11
had been-
senators joined me. in
Senator,
doing
with all due respect, after it had been thrown out of many courts, after the Attorney General.
Yeah, so, yeah, yes or no? Well, in 1876, bro, I don't care. I don't care. Either you have evidence of widespread fraud or you don't. It's been 4 freaking years, and you don't have evidence, so shut the fuck up. It's that simple.
Bill Barr, because there was no basis for those court cases.
No, so that's actually
Senator,
not.
with all due respect.
Okay, you asked me a question. Do you want me to answer it?
And you didn't answer
Do you-
the question.
y-
Dozens
yes,
of
I
court
did.
cases were thrown out.
Hold on a
The Attorney
second.
General said there was no widespread fraud. You're not clearly answering the question. I want to thank you for
What question am I
that.
not? I'm answering every question.
Nice.
I think the country would have been a lot better off with a determination of what evidence of voter fraud there was.
There was none, Ted. That's the point. There was none. Yeah, he's filibustering this interview. Yeah, and she's not having any of it. She's not having any of it.
Occurred, and instead the media didn't want to hear it and insists voter fraud never occurs.
It didn't. Okay. And again, what we mean is like not that a non-zero, exact zero number voter fraud occurred. That's not what people mean. They mean that there was not enough widespread voter fraud to change the outcome of the election. There is voter fraud in every election, and in every election, it's normally a literal statistical rounding error that you would never even notice. In fact, it's been no different than any other election. This 2020 election was no different.
You ought to go back and look at the
Wasn't
Carter
the
Baker
media, it was
Commission.
the Attorney
Stop, I don't care.
General, and my question was about
It was the media.
2024.
It was CNN that relentlessly
was about 2024,
pushed that propaganda.
What propaganda? I don't understand.
And by the way,
What
never
propaganda
holds.
that there was no widespread.
Right. How are they still holding on to this when the iceberg of the story has gone separate ways? I don't know. Like he said, it doesn't matter. There's no facts here. There's no reality that we're hanging on to here. It's so frustrating.
fraud in the election.
That voter fraud doesn't exist, and anyone who says it does is wearing a tinfoil hat.
Literally, that is a straw man. You want to be a freaking debate, bro? That is literally a straw man. That's not what people are talking about when they mean like, oh, there was literally a non-zero number of voter fraud. That's not what people are talking about. Again, what they mean is that there's not a widespread fraud that would have changed the outcome. Not that the popular vote actually matters, but Biden received 81 million votes and Trump received 74. Right, like... Exactly, literally millions of more votes. So, like, if there is so much widespread fraud enough to change the outcome of the election, man, there was a difference. It had the largest turnout with the lowest amount of per capita fraud.
It's propaganda. And by the way, you never asked Hillary Clinton this. You never asked Stacey.
Hillary Clinton wasn't running in the... I'm sorry, what does Hillary Clinton have to do with this? To my knowledge, the 2020 election, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the 2020 election, to my understanding and my account of reality at the time, was between Biden and Trump.
Abrams this. You never ask Al Gore
With all
this.
due respect,
What does Stacey Abrams have to do with this? I'm sorry. What year is this? Al Gore? What did Al Gore win the election or something? I'm sorry. I'm confused. If the Democrats did voter fraud, why did we not win 12 more Senate seats and 40 more House seats? Right? Like why not just go all the way and make sure that you have, the full trifecta, right? Like the presidency, the House, and the Senate. This makes no sense. None of it makes any sense, and it's so frustrating that 4 years later we're still having to contend with this.
Every
Senator,
one of them
with all due
said
respect,
the
Senator,
Republicans who won were illegitimate.
I haven't had any of them on my show. We'll talk to them, but I don't
These are apples and oranges.
remember there being a president who was refusing to turn over the transition of power and facilitated it.
And Trump didn't either. Joe
My
Biden
question was
became
about 2024.
president.
You did not answer
Let
it.
me
But thank
say
you
a
for coming
final.
on the
Let me
show.
say a final
Senator
point
Ted
for you.
Cruz,
You
we're
said
out of
they
time.
haven't come.
Yeah, no, go F yourself. Nice.
In Appling, Georgia.
Can I say a final point? Nah, go F yourself. Oh my god. Louisiana House approves bill to classify abortion pills as controlled substances because that's cool. The Louisiana House approved legislation on Tuesday that would classify the drugs used in medication abortions as controlled substances, criminalizing possession of the drugs without a prescription. The bill passed 64-29 in the GOP-controlled state house, and if signed into law, Louisiana would become the first state to classify misoprostol and mifepristone, the two drugs used in a regimen to terminate early-stage pregnancy, as controlled substances. And you best believe that if this is something that is allowed to fly, then this becomes a blueprint for other states to follow suit. The controlled substances designation typically occurs when a drug is considered addictive, such as opiate or depressants. It also enables states to track drugs and create a database of who's receiving them, along with making possession of the medication without a prescription a crime. Under the legislation, pregnant women are exempt from prosecution. But definitely not exempt from being, put on a list or tracked. Gobanist, hi, welcome. Thank you for the follow. The true drug regimen account for over half of all abortions in the U.S., making it a target for opponents of abortion and a key avenue for access for those who support abortion rights. Mifepristone in particular, which was approved by the FDA in 2000, has been under fire in recent years. The Supreme Court is considering a case this term concerning the rules around the drug's use. The medication is also used outside of abortion for other care, such as managing miscarriages. Ellie Schilling, an attorney in Louisiana who specializes in reproductive health law, told reporters in a Biden-Harris campaign press call Wednesday that the bill would make it incredibly difficult to use the drugs for medically necessary purposes and would lead to the government monitoring pregnant women and those who prescribe the medication. Yep. The state of Louisiana would effectively be creating a database of prescriptions for every woman who's prescribed mifepristone and misoprostol, regardless of the reason, truly monitoring women and their pregnancies. And that should be unimaginable in America. You would think, right? But, yeah. Although abortion is already banned in Louisiana in most circumstances, except when it's deemed necessary to prevent the risk of death or for the mother, or when the pregnancy is medically futile, the legislation would be a template for other states to aim. Yeah, like, see, yeah, exactly. That's the danger with this. To take aim at the medication commonly used in early stage pregnancies. If this is allowed to fly, if this is allowed to stand, then this could become a blueprint for other states to do the same. Women in Louisiana are one step closer to living in a world where they can be monitored and tracked and even sent to prison for just holding FDA-approved medications. Literally, the freaking, literally just a Handmaid's Tale. Man. Said Mitch Landrieu, a former mayor of New Orleans and a Biden campaign co-chair. What's happening right here in Louisiana is just one example of this dystopian agenda that Trump and his allies are pushing. And given drug companies the opportunity to increase the cost 1,000-fold. It is horrible. Even if it doesn't stand, the next few years will be hell for the women involved. Yep. Because, like, even if this gets challenged, while this goes through the process, like, just the fact that it's even on the table is enough to create a chilling effect. So, yeah. Yep, and people can't just press pause on a pregnancy. Right, exactly. Uvalde school shooting victims' families announced $2 million settlement with Texas City and new lawsuits. Family members of the Uvalde school shooting victims reached a $2 million settlement with the Texas City over the deadly 2022 mass. Officials announced yesterday, Wednesday. The group also said they're filing lawsuits against dozens of the Texas Department of Public Safety officers and Uvalde School District. Among them, a $500 million federal suit against nearly 100 state police officers who took part of the botched law enforcement response. The announcement comes nearly 2 years after a teenage gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary. Law enforcement officers killed the gunman in the classroom while waiting for more than 1 hour to confront him, which was heavily criticized in the wake of the shooting. Yeah, I suppose that's one way of putting it. The settlement announced yesterday, the city of Uvalde will pay a total of $2 million to the families of 17 children killed in the shooting and 2 children who survived. Pursuing further legal action against the city would have plunged Uvalde into bankruptcy, something that none of the families were interested in as they look for the community to heal. The money will come from the city's insurance coverage, attorney Josh Koskov told reporters. These families could have pursued a lawsuit against the city, and there's certainly grounds for a lawsuit. Let's face it, sadly, we all saw what we saw, but instead of suing the city and jeopardizing the finances of anybody, the families have accepted simply the insurance. The city said the settlement will allow people to remember the shooting while moving forward together as a community to bring healing and restoration to all those affected. We'll forever be grateful to the victims' families for working with us over the past year to cultivate an environment of community-wide healing that honors the lives and memories of those we tragically lost, said the city in a statement. May the 24th is our community's greatest tragedy. The family is also working on a separate settlement with Uvalde County, said Koskov. Javier Cazares, whose 9-year-old daughter, Jackie Cazares, was killed in the shootings that the last 2 years have been unbearable. We all know who took our children's lives, but there was an obvious systemic failure out there on May 24th. The whole world saw that no amount of money is worth the lives of our children. Justice and accountability has always been my main concern. We've been let down so many times, and the time has come to do the right thing. The settlement also includes the Uvalde Police Department committing to provide enhanced training for police officers and implement a new standard for officers to be developed in coordination with the U.S. Department of Justice, according to the family's attorneys. The city also committed to supporting mental health services for the families, survivors, and community members, creating a committee to coordinate with families on a permanent memorial and establishing May 24th as an annual day of remembrance, in addition to taking other measures. Yeah, the city, not the police or their funding. Yep. Pretty much eternally lined to Memorial Day now. Yep. The families are also taking new legal action against 92 State Department of Public Safety officers in the school district, including former Robb Elementary School principal Mandy Gutierrez and Peter Randero, the school district's police chief, who was fired months after the shooting. Law enforcement did not treat the incident as an active shooter situation, despite clear knowledge that there was an active shooter inside. In Wednesday's statement, the shooter was able to continue for the killing spree for over an hour, while helpless families waited anxiously outside the school. Koskov said the state's officers on the scene could have done more to respond to the shooting, and they acted as if they had nothing to do, as if they didn't know how to shoot somebody, as if they weren't heavily armed and the most well-trained. Koskov said a Justice Department report released in January called the police response a failure. Quote, had law enforcement agencies followed generally accepted practices, lives would have been saved and people would have survived, said Attorney General Merrick Garland. At Wednesday news conference, Koskov said the families would down the line be suing the federal government, noting that many federal law enforcement officers also responded to the shooting. Yet over 150 some odd federal officers who were also there and stood around until one or more breached the room at 77 minutes. Sure, there was a heroic act, but a heroic act was at 77 minutes late. Yeah, good. They should absolutely be able to go after the cops themselves. That one mom got arrested, got released, and went back inside and got her 2 kids. Absolute goddess. Yep. Yep. I mean, like, something like this should, should come out of the police funds. Should come out of their retirement. Police are not required to protect people, they are required to protect property. Yeah, that's true. The shooter wasn't offering any chairs or desks, so it was okay. Alright, folks, I gotta get going. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you all for the support. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you, Heat. Thank you for the follows. I appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Make sure you follow if you haven't done so. Thank you for the new follows. Make sure you hit the like button on the stream on YouTube. I see you guys. Thank you. Subscribe. Do all the awesome stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mouselander. I see you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Consider checking out the merch store by hitting !merch. Join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord, okay? movie night this Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's right. Check out the merch store. You can get some cool gear. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hasser, for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you all. Enjoy the weekend. As always, folks, please stay safe. Yeah, join the YouTubes. Exactly. Join the YouTube, all right? So many of you have graciously subscribed to the YouTube, and I see a handful of you have liked the stream. So keep it up, folks. I appreciate it. Looks like Adventure wins the poll. Now we just gotta pick a movie that's in that genre. Thank you all. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Ooh. Please take care of each other. Beyond, I hope to see you guys in the next one, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, join the Discord, folks. See ya. All right, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.